All right, folks, buckle up. If you really want to know what's going wrong with the world, forget about those stock market crashes and the latest influencer drama. You know what the real culprit is? It's eggs.
Eggs.
Yeah, eggs. While the planet is, teetering on the brink of total collapse, climate change, crypto bubbles, endless cat videos, the material we are diving into today reveals a truly shocking truth. The real villain is hiding out in plain sight in the chicken coop.
Well, that's a pretty bold statement. I'm really curious to see how we unpack this extraordinary claim.
Oh, we're going to unpack it. All right. We are going deep, deep, deep into the article, "Trump is Looking for His Balls" by Stephen Pinkwart.
That's quite the title.
It is. And it's a razor-sharp satirical look at the good old USA, all through the lens of, you guessed it, an egg. And this Pinkwart isn't just some random blogger. He's a seasoned poetry slam veteran. So we can expect some below-the-belt verbal jabs and a generous dose of absurdity.
A poetry slammer who uses eggs as a springboard for social commentary? That's a pretty unique combination. I'm eager to see what he's cooked up.
Our mission today is to dissect Pinkwart's hilarious and biting commentary on modern America. We'll explore the surprising significance he attaches to something as ordinary as an egg, and then venture into territory so absurd it'll make your head spin.
Sounds like a wild ride.
You bet. Expect a roller coaster of dark humor and insights that will stick with you long after this deep dive is over. Ready?
Let's crack this thing wide open.
All right, let's start with what Pinkwart calls the Great Egg Crisis. His thesis, delivered with a wink so big it could cause a facial spasm, is that all of America's problems, from A to Z, can be traced back to a severe shortage of eggs. Who would have thought?
A pretty bold claim, very much in the spirit of satire. But what evidence does he present to support this?
Oh, he pulls out all the stops. In California, he writes, a dozen eggs now cost more than a night out with someone who flosses regularly.
That does sound pretty steep.
Yeah, and in New York, you're faced with a tough choice. Buy a gun in the Bronx or have breakfast in Manhattan. It all depends on how much you value your life.
I see what he's getting at.
Pretty drastic,
Yeah.
right? But it does make you think, literally and figuratively. And then he drops this bomb that'll have you rolling on the floor laughing. He quotes Oliver Kahn, the German goalkeeper legend who famously said, "We need eggs." This quote, placed in the context of America's supposed egg crisis, is just pure comedic gold. I mean, what on earth does Oliver Kahn have to do with American breakfast woes?
It's a brilliant use of juxtaposition, taking an iconic sports quote completely out of context to highlight the absurdity of the situation.
Absolutely. And it gets even better.
Right.
Pinkwart paints this hilarious crime scene scenario at a Walmart in Los Angeles. A lifeless body sprawled out between the canned goods and wilted lettuce. Their last trip was to the refrigerated aisle, their last thought fixated on that damn avocado toast. This poor soul dared to reach for the very last carton of eggs and was tragically overwhelmed by a ravenous housewife screaming, "Give me those eggs, you greedy yolk snatcher!"
Talk about a breakfast brawl. That image really captures the desperation. It's satire at its finest.
And the consequences of this egg shortage, as Pinkwart imagines them, are of course apocalyptic. The Waffle House, an American institution, is charging 50 cents extra per egg, not per dish. A simple omelet costs as much as a used car riddled with rust, scrambled eggs are traded on the black market like the purest cocaine, and a certain Benedict, most likely targeted because of his name, was allegedly shot for price gouging.
The escalation into absurdity is really impressive. He takes an everyday shortage and turns it into a dystopian nightmare, poking fun at our fears and exaggerations.
Yeah, and the government. They declare and collapse, national emergency, the whole 9 yards. The brilliant solution is to import eggs from Turkey. And of course, Pinkwart can't help but express his concern about salmonella with a giant grin on his face. More salmonella than you'd find on a blind date gone terribly wrong. Pure cynical brilliance.
The thought of Turkish eggs landing in Dallas and potentially causing a nationwide food poisoning epidemic adds another layer of humor to the situation. It really highlights the potential pitfalls of quick-fix solutions and how they might create even bigger problems.
Of course, he throws in the obligatory conspiracy theories. Pinkwart presents us with a wild mix of vegan militants, sadistic supply chain experts, and the almighty USDA, all supposedly in cahoots to pull off a sinister multi-billion-dollar deal to corner the market on biosafety.
The blend of different actors and motives into one outrageous conspiracy theory is a classic satirical tactic, poking fun at societal anxieties and the tendency to point fingers. It shows how easily a harmless shortage can transform into a complex enemy.
And there's the suburban moms. They're replacing eggs with applesauce. Applesauce, people. For Pinkwart, this is the ultimate proof that Western civilization is crumbling before our eyes.
Applesauce is the harbinger of Western decline. That's a hilarious exaggeration.
Right. It shows how he takes everyday observations and twists them into something ridiculous to comment on larger cultural shifts. It's like imagine craving scrambled eggs and getting served applesauce. That's where the line is drawn. But hold on tight, folks, because now comes the twist that no one saw coming. Pinkwart claims that this whole egg crisis is just a facade, the slimy film on the lid of our garbage can reality. The real truth, he says, lies somewhere completely different in our beds.
So now he's transitioning to a seemingly unrelated topic. I'm curious to see how he connects eggs to beds. This sounds like an interesting turn.
You bet it is. It's the mite conspiracy, which he also pitches as a slam hack for aspiring poetry slammers. Your mattress, according to Pinkwart, is a thriving biotope, but not for harmless bacteria, oh no, but for stories, for voices, for your next slam poem, for your beloved dust mites. And no, he doesn't mean your snoring spouse, although it's tempting to think so.
The personification of dust mites as these secret observers of our lives is a very original and, I have to say, slightly creepy approach. But then again, provocation is part and parcel of poetry slam.
So while we're busy freaking out about skyrocketing egg prices, his theory goes, those dust mites are snuggled deep in our blankets, happily munching on our dead skin cells, and secretly chuckling at our mundane worries. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your next slam poem. Slam poetry from the perspective of your microscopic roommates. Who would have thought that dust could be so inspiring?
Taking the perspective of such an insignificant and often repulsive creature to put human anxieties into perspective is certainly a provocative approach.
Gross, right.
Yeah.
Enough to make you run for the hills.
Yeah.
And that's precisely why it works, Pinkwart argues. Because poetry, my friends, doesn't reside in the starry sky. It's right there under our dirty sheets. If you want to own the stage, give the audience what they're too afraid to talk about. Physicality, intimacy, all that nasty stuff. Break those taboos.
He's calling for a very direct, almost brutally honest confrontation with the human condition, with all its unappetizing and intimate details. It's about breaking through the surface and exposing those hidden, often uncomfortable truths.
And he provides 4 specific examples of slam prompts from the miserable perspective of those dust mites. Closeness, the mite in your belly button that smelled your ex-partner's infidelity before you even realized it yourself. Discussed your own night sweats as a 5-star feast for a whole mite family. Intimacy, the mite, as a silent witness to your late-night crying sessions and the accompanying shedding of skin flakes. And finally, the ultimate taboo breaker, those cheering mites during your self-gratification, not out of voyeurism, but because the bed is shaking so nicely and those crumbs are dancing.
These examples are intentionally chosen to provoke a strong reaction from the audience, possibly even disgust. It's about pushing the listener's comfort zone and confronting them with topics they would normally prefer to avoid.
That's exactly Pinkwart's plan. You don't need fancy poetic language or some profound message delivered with a wagging finger. What you need is the audacity to drag your audience to a place they'd never voluntarily go, their own bedroom, their own sweat, their own pathetic grossness. Because right there, he firmly believes, lies the damn truth.
It's a very raw and unfiltered perspective on creating authentic art. It's about dropping the mask and embracing those raw, unadulterated, and often unpleasant aspects of life, a kind of catharsis through confrontation.
And now, dear listeners, the circle closes in a devilishly clever way. Back to Trump's elusive balls, if he even has any. Pinkwart unveils the dark secret of the true killer of affordable breakfast. It wasn't the hungry housewife at Walmart, not inflation, not even avian flu. Nope. It was the cowardly silence, the collective looking away, the blatant denial that breakfast even matters, the criminal ignorance of the fact that an egg is more than just a damn egg. It was and is a damn symbol of poverty, of decadent waste, of the utter absurdity of our existence.
The elevation of the egg to a symbolic level that so poignantly reflects different social classes and states adds an unexpected depth to the initial absurdity. The egg becomes a mirror of our collective feelings and contradictions.
In the epilogue, his provocative call to action, Pinkwart presents us with a dirty choice. Either we continue as before, sipping our decaf soy lattes, composing flowery poems about pink clouds and whining about our oh-so-difficult lives, or we transform into a mite or an egg. We get intimate, we get dirty, and above all, we get damn honest.
So the metaphors of the mite and the egg represent 2 different ways of engaging with the world in an unflinching way. The mite as the uncensored observer of the intimate and disgusting, the egg as a multi-layered symbol for deeper social and existential meanings.
Anyone who wants to learn how to write like that, not according to some dusty formulas, but with shame, sweat, and a good dose of cynicism. Pinkwort offers a few devilish tips: how to make an entire room tremble with a single sentence, how to write so that the audience doesn't applaud but shivers with horror, how to transform disgust, desire, and raw pain into a work that is as indelible as a nightmare after eating too much cheese, uncomfortable, authentic, unforgettable.
It's about creating art that is emotionally profound and leaves a lasting impact on the audience, even if that impact isn't necessarily positive or pleasant in the conventional sense. It's an invitation to embrace radical honesty in art.
And with that, we come full circle to the title of the article. Anyone who wants to show some balls should lay them, damn it. On stage, in their writing, in their damn art. And Pinkwort presents us with his incubator for this kind of creativity, the Poetry Master, in a devilishly good German version for our esteemed audience in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. His focus: writing with shame, sweat, and a good dose of cynicism.
Linking the metaphorical balls to the concrete practice of writing and recommending his Poetry Master rounds off the article in a very practical and action-oriented way. It's a call to turn theory into action and get creative.
To wrap things up, my dear German friends, one last, intentionally unsettling thought from Stephen Pinkwort. True poetry begins exactly where your audience winces, and right at that point, your damn applause awaits. So ask yourselves, where does your personal wince line run, both in your understanding of this crazy world and in your own unvarnished creative expression? Dare to cross boundaries.
A challenge to explore your own boundaries and the taboos of your audience to find those raw, perhaps even uncomfortable insights and the most powerful artistic impulses.
And for those who now feel the urgent need to dive deeper into this matter and develop their own creative voice with a good dose of dirt and honesty, I highly recommend Poetry Master Poetry Power in 7 days. Get ready for a literary boot camp.
A solid tip for anyone feeling inspired by Pinkwort's unorthodox ideas and who has the courage to explore their own creative side in unconventional ways.
So in that spirit, be creative, Stefan, and stop worrying about egg prices.